What would you hope to be the collector of one day? Like, hey, one day, how dope would it be to have a collection of this? Could be fragrances. Could be a lot of things.
Yeah. So obviously, with our table, we have a couple colognes, and probably for the next X amount of episodes, there's going to be a different pair, which is really cool. I think for us, just even a year ago, with our fascination with colognes, we would have loved to have had what we have now. So it's really cool. Like, it's not a flex. It's kind of just like part of who we are, something that we share together. So that is probably my first ever really big collection. And then just recently, huge soccer fan. Huge. I am not a huge fan of the MLS, which is the league here in the U.S., but I just went to a game in Columbus, and that was my first time ever going to a professional game. It was awesome. The environment was cool. Really, the quality of soccer was really good. And now, with us living here in Cincinnati, I just bought tickets for a game in a couple weeks for the FC Cincinnati game.
October 1st?
October 1st.
Let's go.
October's very own.
Dude,
so
nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited about that. But I go into that because at the Columbus Crew game, they gave us these towels. So I'm not sure if you've ever seen like the Pittsburgh Steelers. They call these things like terrible towels, and people are waving them, or like Cavs playoff games.
I've had a couple Cavs ones.
Yeah. So the same concept there would be a corner kick, a goal kick. Scream and go, hey guys, wave your flags. Oh, woo, woohoo!
Hey!
And after the game, we waited, and the players came out and we got some signatures. So I got to get that towel signed.
Yeah.
A big thing in soccer is these scarves. And it started way back in the day because, I mean, the big soccer games are in England, and there are times when it's very cold. So the scarves, and they turned it into like this fandom where, you know, you put the colors of the team, you put the logos, you put different inside jokes with the team. And I eyed down my collection when I went to the Columbus Crew store. And I see this super cool Columbus Crew scarf.
Yeah.
And with those signatures that I have, those autographs that I got, I was like, I haven't started it yet, but that would be my next collection.
I love it.
So soccer scarves would be a very cool. Just picture a man cave with all the scars just all along the wall or something like that.
Super sick.
It'd be really cool.
Yeah.
And then that or books. And books. I'll say and books.
I think we have a pretty good collection so far. I
Yeah.
feel like that's something that, as a man, you can never really have enough of. Books is something that my brother's always dove into. My dad has a pretty nice array of books in his office. You know,
What kind of books would you say either your dad or your brother that they have?
pretty much all historical related, and it's interesting. Like, everybody collects a certain kind of book.
That's the cool thing with books too.
Yeah.
It's just there's so many different genres and niches and styles, really. So
it's like my mom's cookbooks. My brother, he is, he's like historical. Some graphic novels. My dad's also like historical. And then for me, it's concept art related. I don't really have many other kind of books. Fortunately, I got no self-help books, so I'm shooting myself in the foot there. But how about you?
yeah, so for me, I would like to slowly progress to sci-fi, which is a really cool genre. I think there's some really cool old-timey books I can get that I'd love to read. Self-help is the most dominant type of book in my collection at the moment, and there's a lot on my list that I want to learn and get. I feel like they help to some degree, and it's just really cool to just get perspectives of lives from other people. Autobiographies are also really good. So I just got my first soccer one, but that's a really cool genre I'd love to explore because there's just so many people that have done really cool things that I'd love to kind of read about. Phil Knight, Shoe Dog is a book that I want to add to my collection. I see you have yours over there. There's so many different styles, and it's the cool thing about books. I'd love to have some concept art. The list goes on and on. It's just really cool to build it. How about you? I know you mentioned concept books, but
yeah, concept books for the most part. I just love flipping through concept art. I love looking at ideas that people poured lots of time into that nobody saw. I love this notion that with Star Wars, for instance, I'm a big Ralph McQuarrie fan, and Ralph McQuarrie being the guy who essentially drew up what would Darth Vader look like, what would Luke Skywalker look like. George Lucas only had these ideas.
Yeah.
Darth Vader's going to wear black, and I want him to look like an evil space invader, but I also want him to almost look like a samurai, too.
Mm-hmm.
How do you blend those
Yeah.
together? And Ralph McQuarrie was the guy that did that. But a cool thing about Ralph wasn't just the fact that he did characters, he painted scenes with the characters. First ever concept artist to do anything like it. It's almost like The Last Supper, but in this case, so there's the scene and then there's all the biblical figures, and you can look at each figure like, that right there, that's Judas, that's Jesus. And this is very similar, very iconic. The characters are put just much detail into is also the background.
Yeah.
And the scene itself. So that really helped George Lucas kind of refine his script, tell a story, and allowed him to visualize the characters. Therefore, he could do a better job with casting and costuming.
Gotcha.
So it's amazing. So from that point on, I was always just obsessed with those original 1977, production artworks. Well, technically they were made in 76 because the movie came out in 77. And then the guy did the prequel artwork, episode 1, 2, and 3, Doug Chiang. He's a beast.
This is the guy behind, like, General Grievous.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And, like, for me, that's my favorite era of Star Wars.
Yeah.
So to kind of see how it came together is super cool. And, of course, Bigfoot's, shoes to fill. So I do have some concept art from video games as well. So those are very immersive worlds.
Yeah.
I guess I like my art that doesn't just consider characters. It's the worlds, the ships, the technology, the weapons, and then, of course, the characters. And for me, being in fashion design, that definitely helps looking at that creative process similar to that of how we create clothing too.
Sure.
From a conceptual side.
So you have like a shoe, which is beautiful and amazing. Now let's see it functioning. Let's see it work. Let's see a running shoe. I just want to look at the running shoe. Let me see it on a trail in Oregon, for example. Kind of like that.
Exactly.
The world, how it kind of interacts with the world around.
Exactly.
That's cool. I like that.
And I know you were big on a book that you were reading, Daily Stoic. Go into
it. So Daily Stoic is a daily book that entails from January 1st through the 31st of December. And it's just a really, really cool book that kind of breaks down certain Stoic principles, and it breaks it into kind of like the seasons of a year. And so each month kind of has its own topic and rhetoric that it kind of tries to follow. And then it just takes these passages from these very astute Stoic philosophers. So you have, the great Marcus Aurelius, which is one of the last great Roman emperors. You have Seneca, who was a slave, I believe. And you picture the strife of being a slave, all the battles that you go through, and how do you make a life out of that? So it's a very strong, very morally tough perspective. So it's cool because then it takes these very archaic writings from these guys from a long time ago, and then the author Ryan Holiday, who's a modern day Stoic, he kind of translated it to today's. And so it's just a really cool read, and I appreciate you bringing it up because it's been a really enjoyable process, and the Stoic principles are very, very helpful. So yeah, it's a good book, and it's one that I will have for a long time because life gets busy. I fall short. I wish I could say I've read every single day, but sure. I haven't.
Yeah.
And so it's good. It's a good, like next year I want to get all 365 days. Fingers crossed. But you just pick up what you can because every day brings a little wrinkle of wisdom. So I'm glad you brought that up. Thanks.
Yeah.